The following program may contain language of an adult nature. Listener discretion is advised.
Views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of alltalkradio.net.
And we can't do it without my girl repping New Jersey, Miss Boxing Baby. What it do?
What it do?
All right. And my man out there holding it down in Canada, my man E King Fight News. What's going on, EK?
Hey, yo, Dante. It's good to be here.
For sure. Let's get into it, y'all. Let's get into it. I'm going to say what's up as well to my producer in the studio holding it down, George. What it do, man?
Nothing to do.
All right. Okay, guys. You know what? Let's start off with Nicholas Walters, man. I want to start off with Nicholas Walters. Matter of fact, let me give you a quick rundown. Matter of fact, before I even get into all the boxing news, let me tell you guys about the All Access, my version of All Access. If you guys haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it. I got about 3 episodes. Broner versus Porter. We're going to talk about that fight as well. But it's a real in-depth look of looking into the camps and everything. So check that out if you guys haven't watched it already. All right. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and talk about Nicholas Walters versus Marriaga real quick. We don't all have to talk on it, but if you guys want to, we can. I'll give you my quick take. I was really impressed. And, you know, when I think of this fight, I think about what I'm going to talk about later, which is we're going to talk about Golovkin, you know, and his little shots that he's firing at Andre Ward, because, you know, you have a lot of people who talk about this is a business. They, you know, a lot of times you'll hear fans say that, and when they say that, that usually means they don't want their favorite fighter to fight, you know, a fighter who they may lose to, right? Now, when you look at Nicholas Walters versus Miguel Marriaga, this guy, Miguel Marriaga, he had a smaller name than Nicholas Walters. If you guys look at it, Nicholas Walters, it was more of a lose-lose situation for Nicholas Walters, right? It was a high risk, low reward type of fight. But yet, and on top of that, Miguel Marriaga, he beat Nicholas Walters twice in the amateurs. Once in the Olympic trials, I believe. Okay, so he's undefeated. He's a power puncher, right? And once again, Nicholas Walters has everything to lose in a fight like this, but Nicholas Walters still takes the fight. Nicholas Walters could have easily told Bob Arum, he could have said, you know what, no, I don't want that fight. That guy has a small name. He's not a big enough name, whatever. I'm only looking for big names, and, you know, that dude is this and this and this and that, right? And he could have took on a guy with 6 knockouts, right? He could have took on a little Willie Monroe Jr. in his division, but he didn't. So I give Nicholas Walters a lot of credit. It was a very impressive performance. I mean, I was really worried for Nicholas Walters when it came to this fight, you know, because like I said, when you know the history of Miguel Marriaga, him being a power puncher, him having an amateur pedigree, you know, I was really worried for Nicholas Walters because, you know, I still want to see Walters versus Lomachenko. But, man, Nicholas Walters was impressive, man. He stood right in front of Marriaga the entire night. The jab was completely on point. The body shots was on point. His defense was impeccable. I mean, he's the truth, man. The guy is the truth, and he deserves his credit once again for taking on the type of opponents that, you know, these fans claim is not a good business move. So, Boxing Ego, what was your take? How did you rate Nicholas Walters' performance?
I thought he did exceptionally well. He did what champions are supposed to do. I mean, he could have took a softer touch, a mid-sized layover, whatever you call it, 8 months, and he didn't. He conquered his fear like a true champion, and I'm not saying he was afraid of him, but fear is anytime boxing is psychological. So sometimes guys, when they had that win over you in the amateurs, don't think they forgot about it. Like Terrence Crawford beat Danny Garcia in the amateurs. If they were to fight as pros, Terrence Crawford is going to remember beating him in the amateurs. So he set the record straight and showed the level of evolution since the amateurs by convincingly beating the guy who was a 90% KO ratio, who was undefeated. And they were both throwing with bad intentions early, and he just pulled away. And I think his body work was retarded, ridiculous. The body work, and that paid dividends late, and it kind of slowed down Marriaga's pace. He got a knockdown. So I thought he looked overall real good. The only downside, the only thing I have to critique him for is not making weight.
Yeah.
He didn't make weight, plus you're rehydrated. So that's the only thing that takes a masterful performance down just a little bit. And I think it would have set up the Lomachenko fight a bit better if they were both still champions. In my mind, I know because he won, that he's still a champion at heart, but just having that trinket, having the belt to go into the Lomachenko fight makes sense. But based on his performance, he's definitely, I mean, he's proven it. He's like one of the only guys at featherweight that can at least test Lomachenko's ring IQ and stuff like that. And some people get mad that there's no knockout. I don't get mad when I see the dynamics that I've seen with Nicholas Walters. He showed you. I never get mad when a puncher shows me he can do other things. You know what I mean? Even if it's boring, like Keith Thurman versus Bundu, I don't think that was the most exciting Keith Thurman performance. But I'm not going to hate on him for showing me a different dynamic, that he can go rounds, that he can have a dominant performance and go the distance. So I thought Nicholas Walters looked good in there.
Yeah. I mean, Miss Boxing Baby, just to add on to what Boxing Ego just said, I mean, how often do you even see a fighter knocking out some undefeated guy who beat you twice in the amateurs with a high knockout ratio, Miss Boxing Baby?
I was actually there covering the fight and live, and I mean, he got the job done he was supposed to do. I wasn't really too sure. I mean, I knew the guy had 20 wins, 18 KOs, but my question was, who did he get those KOs in? Most of his fights were over in Colombia.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
Mexico City. I don't really know most of the people that he fought, so that wasn't really my concern. My concern was, what would Nicholas Walters do, not making weight? And that's basically, to me, what my biggest issue is with him. I think that now I want to see him fight somebody else a little different in the featherweight division. I'm not sure how he would do against Lomachenko. I don't think he'll beat him. But, you know, he did what he was supposed to do Saturday. He got the job done. Now I'm anxious to see, is he going to stay at 126 or is he going to go up to 130? That's my question for him. But I wasn't really too concerned with the dude's power because I didn't really know any people he knocked out. Most of those knockouts were over in Colombia, you know, against lesser opponents, competition. So that wasn't really my concern with Walters.
And
now I'm just anxious to see what he's going to do over in, you know, in the featherweight division. But I don't see him beating Lomachenko though.
I
think that's going to be a different step up for him. I don't see it.
I would have to.
I mean, Victor Artinian had been knocked out 5 times. You know, Nito Donaire, to me, hadn't been the same since he lost to Rigondeaux. You know, he's a little more gun-shy now. So I had to see him against somebody who I think who's good. He's young. He's fresh. He hasn't been in any wars. He's not gun-shy, to see how he really is going to perform against him.
Yeah. In my opinion,
that's what
my opinion might change later on, but right now, and I agree with you, Miss Boxing Baby, I would lean towards Lomachenko against Walters. I mean, the footwork that Lomachenko has is unbelievable. You know, it's unbelievable footwork. You know, his angles, those are real angles, you know. And it's unfortunate, you know, that we can praise fighters that have foot movement, but when it's a fighter that they don't like, all of a sudden, you know, they're going to call it running and all that kind of stuff. I hate that, you know, we give the fighters who deserve the credit, we give them the credit, right? But we don't receive the same credit in return when it comes to other fighters. But, you know, that's, you know, we're going to be talking about that all the time. So,
well, they should stop fighting like chickens and runners.
Exactly. Exactly. Because, you know, if we were to talk like them right now, we would be calling Lomachenko the biggest runner and coward. You know, that's all he does is run. And, he's just going to beat, you know, Nicholas Walters because all he does is run. You know, that's what they were saying in the Mayweather fight. But I'm not saying that. I'm telling you that Lomachenko has beautiful foot movement in the ring. You know what I mean? Go ahead, E-King.
Man, I was just going to say, let's not forget, in terms of professional experience, Lomachenko is 4-1 with 2 knockouts and a loss to Orlando Salido. I'm not saying that he's not a great fighter. In terms of his amateur pedigree, it's off the charts, but I think he needs a few more fights before he gets in there with Walters. I personally think I'm not sure. I would like to see him handle a guy that can punch like a Walters.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Since Gary Russell Jr. didn't really get the chance to sit down on his punches. He didn't sit down on his punch. I'd like to see a guy go to his body and sort of take away that foot movement, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Walters is that kind of a matchup, kind of like what Orlando Salido did. Even though Salido was more kind of rushing in and definitely caught Lomachenko off guard, Walters is the kind of guy that he can get you at range with that body shot and just sneak it under your elbow, too.
Yeah.
Excellent work to the body. And I definitely think if he continues that kind of a plan, he could slow him down and really, put that work in. I think that's a great fight, and for me, it's 50-50.
Yeah.
I think both fighters have a great chance of winning that fight.
Oh, they definitely do. They definitely do. And what Loma did with Gary Russell is he controlled Gary Russell with his reach and his foot movement. Like what E. King was alluding to, it'll be a lot more difficult for him to do that with a much bigger, a much longer Nicholas Walters, especially with the jab. Nicholas Walters, he can control you with his jab. So, and, like E. King said, we haven't really seen Lomachenko in there with a guy with that type of power and that type of natural size at the limit. Gary Russell has a lot of power, but Gary Russell couldn't get close enough to Lomachenko to even implement the power. So that is the difference. Go ahead.
Another thing I want to add too. I was going to add real quick.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, E. King. Ego, go ahead, Ego.
I was just going to say real quick with the whole Lomachenko, Gary Russell, Lomachenko looked phenomenal in that particular fight. I do think Gary Russell Jr., sometimes he becomes reliant on speed. When a fighter has a certain attribute that is just like above average, like Gary Russell's speed, sometimes they get a little bit reliant on that. Like Pacquiao, when he first started, he was reliant only on his left hand. Adonis Stevenson relies on his left hand because it's so great. I think Gary Russell did rely on it. Versus Nicholas Walters, he has cool speed, but it's not like phenomenal speed. And I've seen a bit more adjusting in terms of his modes from Nicholas Walters. He even got clipped by Donaire and had to make an adjustment. They were going tit for tat in the Marriaga fight. So I think it's a 50-50 fight, like everybody's saying. I think it's a good fight. I think Gary Russell Jr., his game plan was kind of outspeed this guy. And then when that was taken away and nullified beautifully by Lomachenko, he kind of, I don't know, didn't know what to do exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Miss Boxer, baby.
Beat him, he definitely going to have to try to rough him up. Maybe a similar game plan like Salida. Gary Russell, his thing is always, most of his wins, all of his wins were to overspeed the guy, outwork him. He couldn't do it with Loma because every time he tried, he came in, hit the body, and he would get out. Like, it just didn't work. And that's really how he fights. He relies on his speed. I think with Walters, to beat him, he's going to have to rough him up, I believe, like Salidas did.
Yeah.
Take him out of his game plan, don't allow him to get settled. I don't know if he can do that, but that's what he's going to have to do.
Excellent point.
Win that fight. Question I had, though, for Lomo is, does he have enough to keep Nicholas off of him? That's the only question I have in that fight.
Yeah.
So,
When Lomachenko first came in, I thought his power was a little bit more devastating, but I don't think it's quite as. He's just very good, complete type of fighter.
Yeah.
But when he first came in the game, I thought that he had a little bit more power than he does.
Yeah,
but power's not everything.
No, it's not. It's not. But I truly believe that when it comes to that fight, either Nicholas Walters is going to knock out Loma or hurt him and knock him down a couple times and then take away his confidence, or Lomachenko may outbox Nicholas Walters and make him look slow on his feet. So, it's like you guys said, 50-50 fight. But let's go ahead.
I think that I was just going to say real quick, I think that's, at the back of the pound-for-pound list, at least, if whoever wins that fight. If they make Lomachenko
no doubt
right now, and I think that's worthy of being, whoever wins that in no bullshit controversy, I think that's worthy of them being on the pound-for-pound list.
No doubt.
That's a good fight.
No doubt. You got Nicholas Walters, who knocked out Nonito Donaire. You have Lomachenko, who decisively beat Gary Russell, and then they face off. Yeah, they're in the top 10, no doubt about it. So let's move on. Let's talk about Deontay Wilder knocking out Eric Molina in the 9th round. Oh man, here we go. Here we go. Now, when it comes to Deontay Wilder, I'm gonna just lay it out there. You know, when I go to the Olympics, if I were to go watch the Olympics, either if it's on TV or if I go watch live, you guys know which country I'm rooting for, right? That's just natural. Everyone is gonna root, for the countryman, and et cetera, et cetera. The reason why I'm setting this up like this is because I would like to see the best for Deontay Wilder. I would like to see him, be the next Riddick Bowe, be the next Holyfield when it comes to representing, USA. But at the same time, with this performance, I don't know, man. I don't know. And I'll tell you right now, I told people long time ago, way before Deontay fought against Broner-Porter, I told people I don't like the way Deontay backs up. When fighters charge after him, I don't like how he backs up, and he looks like he doesn't really know what to do sometime when he backs up. I really want to see him correct that. I want to see him learn how to use check hooks, learn how to control distance, right? And in this fight, it's funny because I've been saying that for a while, and Paulie Malignaggi, if you want to learn boxing, listen to Paulie Malignaggi while you're watching boxing. Paulie brought it up. He said, I don't like the way Deontay keeps backing all the way up to the ropes when, Molina charges after him, right? So, and not only that, but he gives up his height. He's 6'7", and he gets low, and he puts himself in position to get caught with the hook that he got caught with when he got hurt. I believe it was in the 3rd or the 4th round, right? So I think these are things that Deontay Wilder, he needs to work on. Of course, the Burns-Stavern performance, that was an excellent performance. But the Eric Molina performance, I don't know, man. I don't know. And they're talking about Deontay Wilder possibly fighting against Arreola, or I think it was David Price. I think it was both of them. But I know it was Arreola for sure. They said those are possible names for Deontay Wilder next. And I tell you, if what's his name, Arreola, if he has anything left and he applies that pressure, we may see a fight similar to the Eric Molina fight. So go ahead, E-King, give me your take on that fight. What did you think about Deontay's performance?
Deontay, I agree pretty much 100% with what you said. Deontay needs to watch Vladimir Klitschko. He needs to study Vladimir Klitschko and use his height. Mm-hmm. He needs to use his jab, and he really needs to work on controlling distance and even clinching. Mm-hmm. He's got to clinch if a guy's getting too close.
Yeah. Take advantage of your height.
He's got to be matched carefully. Mm-hmm. I think maybe he got this title a little too soon, and he's got to really stay humble and continuously improve if he wants to take down a guy like a Klitschko or even a Povetkin.
Or even a Tyson Fury. Does he have a chance with any of those? Does he have a chance with any of those guys, Boxing Ego? Go ahead, King. Finish, King.
He's always got a puncher's chance. That's the one thing you can't you can't underestimate him for. He's got that one-shot power, and he can take anyone out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no doubt. The right hand, like I said, I compare it to Manny Pacquiao's left hand, or what's his name, Adonis left hand. That's how Deontay Wilder's right hand. And it's impressive what he's doing at the size he's at. I believe he's under 220, right? The dude is under 220, and he's knocking out guys that are 240, 260. So we haven't had a heavyweight that small to be the champion in quite some time. So he has a lot of potential. I just want him to work on them things. I just don't like the way he backs up. So Boxing Ego, does he have a chance against these other top-notch heavyweights, man?
Yeah, I think I'm on my own with this one, but I think Deontay Wilder, don't misconstrue it. The performance, it wasn't like a sensational performance, like he just made no mistake. I seen the type of things he did. E-King said he gave up his height. He didn't really go to the body. He didn't I could think of a bunch of things he didn't. Backing straight up was the biggest one. And then the other thing is, even when he has the momentum, when he has the flow, he's not accurate. Sometimes he's just wild. You could have got your man out of there, if you were a little bit more precise with your punches. But that being said, I think there's a lot of fighters like Deontay Wilder, and it's still going to take a lot to beat them based on what they do well. Like even Pacquiao. Pacquiao is a good fighter, but he makes a ton of mistakes. It just takes the right fighter and the right night and the right combination of things to beat a guy like Pacquiao. So even though Wilder's wild, like his last name says, I still think with that wingspan, I mean, as long as you don't get caught cold, then, I mean, he's a threat for anybody. I would definitely wait for Klitschko. I think a Povetkin fight next would be a good opportunity, but not everyone's going to be able to capitalize. I just don't see it, because if you look at it, a lot of people are like, oh, his chin. He didn't even touch canvas. Tyson Fury got knocked down by a cruiserweight in Steve Cunningham.
Good point.
So, I mean, if we're talking about chins, I mean, he got dropped by a cruiserweight. And then same thing with Klitschko. I mean, I'm not, if we're talking about chins, Klitschko don't have no Evander Holyfield chin to me.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen him knocked out before and hurt. So I think it's going to take somebody like a Wilder or a Tyson Fury to beat a Klitschko. These small guys can't do it. If you're 6'1", 6'2", you can't get in the inside. But if you can match reach with Klitschko or come close to it, then I think they could get the job done. But I think Wilder, for him, he needs more season. He needs to keep building confidence, like you said, Areola or Povetkin. But, I mean, he's still dangerous. I really think he has freakish power. It's just, I mean, if we're talking about chins, like I said, I'm not really confident in any of today's fighters' chin. I don't even know what Anthony Joshua's chin's like, because he hasn't fought the level of competition to let me know. He hasn't fought even a Chris Areola type. So I really don't know what his chin's like. And Chris Areola got hurt by Eric Molina, too, before knocking him out in the first round. So I think people are very critical of Deontay Wilder. And trust me, I'm not saying it's a flawless performance, but the bottom line is you still have to be able to deal with it. He didn't touch canvas. So you have to deal with that height, his athleticism, decent, pretty good speed for a heavyweight. And if you could deal with all those things and his power, then make it an easy night. But so far, no one's been able to do it.
Miss Boxing Baby, how did you rate his performance?
I like Wilder. I like what I see. He showed he has some boxing ability when he fought Savon. What I do see is he has a few flaws. His balance is a little messed up. Tends to bend over a bit. Right now, I don't see him beating Klitschko, and I'm going to base that all off experience. I think he still has some flaws he needs to work on. Maybe if he can catch Klitschko in 2 more years when he's a little older, he might, but right now I just don't see it happening. Not at this stage in the game, because Klitschko's chin is not the best, but since he, got with Stewart and he taught him how to fight tall, you can't touch that chin. You can barely get inside to him. And I know Wilder matches him in height, but I don't see him beating him. Not now.
Yeah.
Not at this
But
stage.
this is the only thing I will add to that. I agree. I don't see him beating Klitschko at the moment, so I'm not making a case for Deontay Wilder. But if you watch Jennings' last fight with Klitschko, he looked uncomfortable. But Klitschko, being a seasoned person, like he won those championship rounds and did his best to keep Jennings off. But the thing is, Jennings is more controlled to me. Deontay Wilder is he can get kind of wild. So, I mean, but he has a higher wingspan and stuff. So it really just depends. But I don't know.
Like
Klitschko looks a
small
little bit
version of Frazier. Smaller version. He was bum rushing him the whole night, so it kind of made him uncomfortable. I don't think Deontay would try that with him.
He doesn't.
So that style kind of made him a little uncomfortable because he kept coming in. But I just think at this point that any flaw that Deontay has, I think Klitschko will capitalize on now. But if you catch him in 2 years, he might. But I think experience would be the factor in that fight. He's going to keep Deontay away from his chin. He won't be able to get it.
Well, see that
I think he's going to keep him away from it. So
Wilder won't have to fight like a Jennings, like a Frazier. He'll be able to use.
Oh.
Yeah, he'll be able to use the height and the reach that no other Klitschko opponent has ever really been able to do. I'm hearing that Klitschko is going to fight Tyson Fury. We'll get a taste of how he deals with that in that fight. But when it comes to Deontay Wilder versus Klitschko, because of Klitschko's chin and because of the accuracy of Deontay Wilder's right hand, that does give Deontay a great chance to pull off the upset. But at the same time, he is going to, we are going to have to wait for that fight anyway. So, he'll be, getting a little bit better, hopefully, his skills, progress and everything. But when it comes to Povetkin, that's going to be a real good test, man. That's a real good test because that's going to test Deontay Wilder's inside game. Because we see, Povetkin is a very good inside fighter. So, like E. King was talking, we'll see how he deals with tying up on the inside. How does he deal with the inside game? The inside game is what's forcing Deontay Wilder to back up because he's not comfortable on the inside. So that would be a major test right there. And, outside of Deontay Wilder's right hand, I think his best weapon is his ambition and his desire. You could tell, even though Deontay doesn't have, Floyd Mayweather type skill, you could just see how bad he wants it. He wants to be the best. He just has to sharpen up the tools a little bit. So, that's my take.
And I want to.
Oh man, I if I could just be real quick, I got to give Deontay Wilder a lot of credit for wanting to get in there 4 or 5 times a year, and truly be like the old school champions. And improve on his game just by staying active.
Yeah, no doubt. Go ahead, Boxing Ego.
I was just going to say real quick, this is something I haven't heard many people mention. The one thing that I do like, that I was actually impressed with in this Eric Molina fight, was after he got hurt, which he did the chicken dance where he was clearly hurt, right? He fought like a champion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
in terms of creating the knockdowns after that and weathered that storm. He didn't want to get knocked out in front of the hometown crowd. And the other thing I really liked about the performance was the first knockdown, if I'm not mistaken, was created with the left hand.
Yeah.
And I've always used this that come from the right hand. He hit him with like a left hook, and that's what created the first knockdown. So to see that he at least applied the left, I like seeing that. But by far, it wasn't his best performance. Stavern was probably that. You know what I mean?
And that's what I mean. That's Deontay Wilder's ambitions of a writer. You know what I mean? He wants it. Like you said, he said, no, I don't care how bad I get hurt. I'm not about to lose in front of my own hometown. My daughter is right here, and so on and so forth. And, another thing that was impressive is right after he wobbled, he didn't even look like he was ever hurt. You don't see that too often either. Usually you see someone staggering around for a good minute or two, trying to wake back up. But, he was good. It's almost like that hook actually woke him up. It kind of put him to sleep.
Good recouping power.
Huh?
Yeah.
What do you say?
Good recouping power.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's definitely in shape. See, like when people talk about this whole chin thing, I'm just going to put my little stamp out there, is with me, if you get hit by a puncher, somebody who's known to have power, a high KO ratio, even if they didn't knock out necessarily the best names, Eric Molina has an 81% knockout ratio and hurt Chris Arreola, who's considered a warrior with the chin. That's not that. If you get caught right, you know what I mean, it's not out of the question. Me, when I see Chris Algieri hurting Amir Khan or Robert Guerrero get hurt by Aaron Martinez with 4 knockouts, that to me is more concerning because I'm like, damn, these are guys that if honestly, if Keith Thurman or Mayweather fought Aaron Martinez, do you think they will get knocked down by him?
That's
you know what I'm saying?
Very good point.
I think you, and too, a lot of times anybody can be hurt by a punch if you don't see it or you get hit by the right person.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes basing a person not having a chin is the reaction they make every time they get hit with a punch, period. They look discombobulated. That's when you really say a person doesn't have a chin. But anybody can get caught by a puncher and be hurt. That's just boxing. I mean, Shane Mosley hurt Floyd Mayweather. He's got one of the best chins in boxing.
No,
but
exactly.
every time you get hit with a punch, you're discombobulated. That's when you know you just don't have a chin. Like Amir Khan.
And this whole glass chin thing gets blown out of proportion. When I see Adrian Broner jump up 2 weight classes, his second fight at welterweight, you get cracked by Maidana with what you thought was a body shot and he came up top, that you're supposed to go down. You're not supposed to be able to withstand that. You know what I'm saying?
And he was backing up with the stance down. I mean, anybody gonna get dropped if they get hit with Maidana flush like that. That's just because he's a puncher.
Exactly. You see Bradley getting rocked back by Ruslan Provodnikov. I mean, that's what's supposed to happen when you fight a puncher like that and they hit flush. That's my whole thing. With Deontay Wilder, he wasn't in there with Kevin Johnson, somebody with, minimal knockouts, and we ain't seen, out of all the people he fought, we never seen him hurt nobody. So he was in there with the guy with the 5-win, 3 knockout streak, hurt Chris Arreola. I mean, it's happening. I mean, it happens. So that's what I think about. I think the whole glass chin, I'm not saying he has the strongest chin, but again, I don't think none of today's heavyweights have the greatest chin that I've seen.
Yeah, and like you said, it's the heavyweight division, where you got heavyweights hitting you. So the punches, are obviously a lot harder.
I think Deontay has a pretty good chin. I mean, he showed that with Severn. Like I said, anybody can wobble when they get hit the right way.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean you don't have a chin. I think his chin is pretty good.
And
okay, Martina had the power. He caught him the right way. He was able to hurt him. That's just boxing, but that's
Dante,
not how you base it by having a glass chin. Yeah.
Dante, you just said it yourself too. You said, "Oh, it's amazing how he's weighing 219, 229, fighting guys weighing 250, 260, and hurting them."
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like he fought a guy who was in the 250s, 260s, like Miss Boxing Baby said. Anyone can get hurt by a punch.
Mm-hmm.
It's just who's punching you.
It's knockout now. You making somebody look like a mere con dude. Come on now.
Yeah.
That's a glass chin.
That's a glass chin. But Vladimir Klitschko, he proves that you don't need a chin to dominate a division. As long as you can protect that weak chin, and that's what Vladimir Klitschko's been able to do. So. Yeah. All right, guys, before we run out of time, we got to talk about, I would probably say, the second biggest fight of the year, at least to date. Broner versus Porter, the Battle of Ohio. Who's going to be the king of Ohio? It's going down. I can't wait to watch it. Like I said, once again, check out the little documentary, the mini documentary I did, episode 1, 2, and 3 on my channel. Let's get into it, man. This is a big fight, major bragging rights, and I think the winner of this fight, is in the circle of being, one of the welterweight's best fights, or best fighters in the welterweight division. I should put it that way. Let's start with you, Ms. Boxing Baby. How's this fight going to play out? What's going to happen? How's it going to go down?
Well, first let's say that Sean Porter is strong, and that's how he basically goes in to win his fight. He doesn't have a lot of skill. He's not very polished, but if he can overstrength you, overwhelm you, and then he's good. I think in this fight, if AB boxes, uses the skills I know he has, I think he's going to beat him easy. Easy. Every time he comes in with the wild shit, I think he's going to tee off on him. If he just sticks to the game plan and boxes, I see it being an easy win for him, in my opinion.
Interesting. We're going to get some contrast on this one. E. King, what's your take, man?
Man, I truly believe that Adrian Broner, in terms of preparing for this fight, I haven't seen him fight a masterclass victory ever since he fought Antonio DeMarco, who was the guy it's a plotter that really fought in a silly way. And Sean Porter's not going to fight like that. And he looked good against Molina, but Molina was tagging him whenever he let his hands go. And I just want to see if Adrian Broner will be able to handle Sean Porter when he comes in with leading with power shots. Mm-hmm. I think Adrian Broner is going to have a big problem, similar to how we had problems with Marcos Maidana. Just like, as we said, he caught him flush, feinting to the body, going to the head, and really roughing him up. And I truly believe if Sean Porter is doing what we all sort of have the buzz that's going around in terms of how Sean Porter's training, pushing himself to the absolute limit, being truly prepared to take Adrian Broner to a place he's never been before, conditioning-wise. I think Porter has a very great chance of winning this fight if he can. If Adrian Broner kind of runs into the brick wall that Sean Porter did when he ran into Cal Brook, I think Porter, if he can get on the inside and just rough him up and sort of show him that he's sort of that dude. Adrian Broner, there's a psychological edge here based on their history in Ohio.
Yep.
And there's even video footage of Adrian Broner literally saying he looks up to Sean Porter.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is a fight that he wanted to be in, and there's a reason why he asked for a catch weight. So I don't know. All this shit might bite him in the ass at the end of the day, because this just might be the wrong guy at the wrong time. And I think Sean
Porter catch weight because he can't make 147, and Porter can't make 140. So that's just obvious why they put the catch weight in, because obviously he can't come down to 140. He can't fight at 147, so they had to meet in the middle. That's the only way.
He was willing to fight Maidana at 147.
But he came back down since then because he doesn't do well at 147. I believe that's why he went back to 140. I don't see him making 147 now, especially when he's at the end of camp, almost like at 144. I think he fits right into the junior welterweight division, and I don't see him making 147. We know Porter can't come to 140, so they had to meet in the middle.
Well, Mike Stafford.
On top of that, I don't see why he had to put in this rehydration type clause of 10 pounds. I don't understand that. I think he really wants to have that weight advantage going into the night of the fight.
Yeah. Well,
I gotta jump in with my thing. Like the whole catch weight thing. Catch weights are a part of boxing, and we just got to get used to it. I don't like them, but at the end of the day, I take them by a case-by-case basis. Sean Porter is 27, Broner is like 25, and Sean Porter. The thing is, why this catch weight is not as bad to me as like Daniel Gill. Daniel Gill got knocked out last year, right? And he didn't do shit to get a title shot versus Cotto, and then he had to meet at a catch weight that he hasn't done in 8 years. He had to weigh in at a weight. Sean Porter just had a fight in March or something on PBC, and he was in shape for that fight, right? So this particular fight, he's coming right back into the fire versus Broner, so he didn't even really have much time to gain weight. Plus, he has never been, like, knocked out and, like, just beat up and battered like Daniel Gill was when he got stopped by Triple G. And then as far as the rehydration clause, Sean Porter was the IBF champion, and the IBF rules stipulate that he can't, as a champion, rehydrate more than 10 pounds.
So he's used to that.
So he's used to that. That's nothing new to him. So people are making a big to-do about the 10-pound rehydration, but this is really – he lost to Kell Brook and had one fight since then. So basically, he's only had one fight where he hasn't had a rehydration clause, so to speak, where he couldn't get more than 10 fights. And that was versus Eric Bonet, last-minute replacement. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's 10 pounds not that big of a deal.
People are comparing him to the thinking he was going to do what Maidana did. Why I can't compare Porter to Maidana? Maidana has an awkward, rough style that could be rough for anybody if he catches them clean. That's just period. That's just who he is. I believe that Porter relies, and first for one, he's not a one-punch knockout artist. Maidana is. He's just strong. He fought at 165 in the amateurs. He's bigger than everybody at welterweight. He's going to be stronger than everybody. But when it comes down to the skill and him knowing how to come in with a jab and box behind that, he doesn't have a lot of that. If he can't overwhelm you, he doesn't do well. Kell Brooks showed that because every time he came in, he hit him with a 1-2, and that was it. If AB follows the same game plan, uses his feet, his skills, another punch I believe is going to land all night for AB is the uppercut, because Sean Porter is susceptible to the uppercut because the way he comes in.
Yeah, they've been working on that.
I see him dominating this fight.
That's a big.
I agree with the sense of I mean, to me, I think Maidana. A lot of people sleep on his experience. This dude's been in there with Victor Ortiz when Victor Ortiz was the golden boy.
Yeah.
Morales, been in there with Jesus Soto Pedazo, Cito Lopez. All these fights before he even fought Adrian Broner. And since he's partnered with Robert Garcia, his jab has improved. That when I watched the Jesus Soto Pedazo fight, that is the first thing I noticed, how Maidana had a better jab. The jab sets up everything. But as far as the Broner-Porter, I don't know who I'm going to go with. I'm really torn and split down the middle. But I think Maidana actually improved his brawler style more so than Sean Porter has. When I looked at the Eric Bonet fight, he was, if you look at that fight, that was a back-and-forth rumble type of fight with a last-day replacement. Like, this dude had 1 day, literally, because I talked to my dude out here, Kareem Mayfield, and he was potentially going to be the last-minute replacement, and then PBC chose Eric Bonet. So this dude had 1 day to prepare, and he gave Sean Porter a pretty tough fight.
That's true.
Least. I mean, for a guy who's coming. And see, this is the other thing. I think you interviewed him, but didn't he come up in weight? He wasn't even a 147-pound fighter. And he was a last-day replacement.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, he did come up in weight.
Power. Yeah, no power at 140, came up in weight. So this is a good fight. This is a real good fight because it's, I mean, I definitely look at Broner's skill set higher than Eric Bonet, especially with 1 day to prepare. And to me, Sean Porter's last fight didn't look so refined in that particular fight. And I remember Bonet, like, hurting his knee or something, and then the knockout came after that. He looked like immobile to me. You know what I mean? When I watch the fight, I got to watch it again. But Eric Bonet looked like he slipped and twisted his knee, and then his mobility suffered. But I can also make an argument for Porter winning because Broner doesn't let his hands go. When he lets his hands go, it looks beautiful. But when he lets guys with no punching power like Paulie Malignaggi outwork him in those early rounds, I don't know. It makes me kind of wonder, like, damn, how you going to keep Sean Porter off of you if you're not letting your hands go enough? You might get outworked like Paulie Malignaggi was doing early.
You just remind me.
That's right.
You just remind me.
Absolutely right.
You hold on for a second.
Fight at welterweight. He skipped over 140. Not everybody can do it. Shane Mosley did it. I feel like the move of him coming back down to 140 was perfect. He beat Paulie, but that might have been a case of I just can't do it at 147. And he was smart. Fought Maidana, came back down. In this fight, he's gonna have to use his boxing skills, and I'm giving him a big edge. And I'm not taking anything away from Porter. He's good with the style that he has to rough you up. Even when he beat Devin Alexander, he didn't box him. He just roughed him up, and Devin Alexander allowed him to overpower him. That's just his style. He's not very polished.
And
I hope he doesn't try to go in there and outbox AB because that won't work. You know, his best bet is to go in there and try to rough him up, but I just have AB winning this fight. If he stays smart, sticks to the game plan, boxes him, I think it's going to be an easy night for him.
I do think that Broner getting his ass whooped by Maidana actually helps him going into this fight because now I think, to me, when I seen Broner Maidana, he was kind of playing around, and Maidana was coming to take his head off. And he got caught, and then we all know how the rest turned out. So I think the experience of losing to Maidana in that fashion actually benefits him going into this fight because now you know what to expect. You might not get rushed the same way. And like Miss Boxing Baby said earlier, versus Maidana, he's a little bit tricky. Even Floyd got caught at the end of the round in the rematch, if you guys remember. Maidana is unorthodox as hell. Sean Porter is more straightforward and really aggressive, like at you.
Yeah.
Broner, he doesn't have as much power as Kell Brook, nor does he. I mean, he has a pretty good jab, but I don't think he has as much power as Kell Brook, so I don't know if he's going to be able to keep him off him for the duration of 12 rounds. So it's a good fight, man.
And
I got to say, I think Adrian Broner could be going into this fight with a serious disadvantage in terms of power. We saw Sean Porter's power the way he took out Paulie Malignaggi, and he's continued to show solid power at 147. There's a reason why Kell Brook had to clinch him numerous times during that fight. And, if Adrian Broner can take his punch, it'll definitely show a lot because he might be a bigger puncher than fucking Marcos Maidana.
Yeah, or he might just be physically.
Maidana is a one-punch knockout artist. He can hit anybody clean and stumble them.
Yeah.
But Porter is more so he's just strong.
Physically strong, body-wise and everything.
Body-wise, he's strong because he fought at 165 in the amateurs. So he's going to be naturally bigger than everybody at welter. But when it comes down to one-punch knockout artist, that's Maidana hands down. Either hand, he can knock you out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if Maidana fought Eric Bonet on the last-minute one-day replacement and had him hurt like that, I really see it ending bad. Like, he wouldn't be standing. I think Maidana has more than one. And then Paulie, like an unorthodox accuracy, too.
Paulie tried to stand in front of Sean Porter, a man with 7 knockouts who couldn't hurt a feather, and fight him like that. Come on, he had no chance in the opening bell.
Yeah.
Trying to stand there and fight that man like that.
And we down to 4 minutes, and I was gonna let you guys talk, mainly for this anyway. I wasn't gonna say too much about the Broner-Porter fight since I've been, covering it exclusively. But I did want to say, going all the way back to when we were talking about catch weights and why they're fighting at a catch weight. Coach Mike Stafford, which is Broner's coach, he said something that was really interesting when I interviewed him. He said he was surprised that Porter took the fight at a catch weight, and then he went on to basically say that means this guy really wants to win this fight, or he really wanted this fight. He said something like that. So I thought that was kind of telling for him to say something like that. Number two, we so focused on talking about Porter's aggression in this fight, but honestly, don't be surprised if Porter surprises everyone and half of this fight he's boxing Broner. And if he boxes Broner, hopefully we don't see Broner versus Paulie Malignaggi. You know what I mean? Because last time Broner fought a boxer, he didn't look phenomenal. You know, I think Broner prefers a guy to come, you know, face first, flat-footed. You know, so but that's the thing that people don't know about Shawn Porter. Not only can he brawl, but he can also box. I mean, this dude won every single tournament, you know, in the amateurs, and I know a lot of people don't pay attention to that. I'm always looking at it because my kids box. But some of the tournaments he won that I know about are some difficult tournaments to win, you know, and he won them easy, back to back to back to back. So the guy can box, and on top of that, he can fight on the inside. What Broner is going to have to do is Broner is going to have to take away his inside game like Kell Brook did. He's going to have to completely take it away by tying him up and holding him down and then keeping him at bay with a good jab, a good, you know, right hand to the solar plexus like Kell Brook did, and control him from the outside. But to do that, you have to be consistent. You can't be taking off rounds. You can't be taking off minutes and rounds because Porter is going to constantly come forward. So this is what Adrian Broner needs to do. We already know what Porter needs to do. He needs to completely, you know, take Adrian Broner out of his game and get, you know, basically attack him before he can even think. You know, stop him from thinking and just get him into an instinctive fight. You know, so that's what Porter needs to do. Pressure versus.
Can I say one thing before we
go ahead. We got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
It's not about that fight. It's just about Triple G and this calling out Floyd Mayweather. I have one thing to say about that. He's so busy calling out the smaller Floyd Mayweather. Why is he not calling out the big Mayweather and Andre Ward? Because he knows that's a straight ass whooping. So I don't show him no respect right now. You call on a man who's 2 weight classes smaller than you, and you got a man right there who's ready to fight you, who to me is Mayweather but just bigger. But you don't want that fight. But you're calling out the little one, the little Floyd. And I totally have no respect for him for that.
You brought that up right on time because I wanted to get that in before we before we closed out. But yeah, and on top of him calling out Floyd Mayweather, now he talking shit about Andre Ward. I mean, I don't understand this, man. The guy wants to fight you. Like I said, when I first read the headline, I thought, you know, because it says something like Golovkin, he shreds Andre Ward. I thought it was about to be him finally calling out Ward. I was like, oh, man, he finally about to call him out and say, you know what, I'm sick of this man, let's do it. But it was the contrary. Now, all he's saying is, you know, you want to fight me and don't worry about my opponents and so on and so forth. You saying all of this stuff saying that he's not a name. Now even Golovkin is starting to talk like a fan. You know, he's saying that Ward is not a name. But when you fight Willie Monroe, you destroy that excuse. You know what I mean? You can no longer talk about who's a name because we all know that Andre Ward is a much bigger name than Willie Monroe. You know what I mean? So anybody else want to – I know Boxing Ego, he did an excellent video on this topic. You want to throw something out there in about 10, 15 seconds, Boxing Ego?
Yeah, I mean, you can't – like, I do think he's being ducked at 160 by certain individuals. But if you can't get those fights that you want, and you got a guy like Laura at 54 who says, I'll come up to 160 to fight you, and you got Ward at 168, you have two options, either lower or higher, to choose from, but you just pick the cash cow who's already proven his worth for the last 20 years. It doesn't make sense. Like, it seems like you could – why don't you take – if you're being ducked in your division, why don't you take one of them up on their offer? It's like you want the sweetest pot. You know, win, lose, or draw with Mayweather, you're getting cashed out.
Yep, and we out of time. I just want to say real quick, it's okay to go after the cash cow, but if that cash cow is not going to fight you, who are you going to fight? You got the next big name in line is Andre Ward. There, if you can't get Cotto and Canelo, they're going to most likely fight in September, so you can't get them. Outside of Cotto, Canelo, Floyd Mayweather, who's the next big name? It's Andre Ward or Edislani Lara. So that's
if people don't realize you can't dictate terms to Mayweather. Period. End of story. He's not going to allow it. He's put in too much work. You can't dictate the terms to him. He tells you what it is. You can be mad at ego if you want, but that's the truth.
And Canelo had to fight Austin Trout before he got the Mayweather fight. You know what I mean? He had to fight somebody. Golovkin needs to fight somebody. We out of time, guys. For my panel, Boxing Ego, E-King Fight News, Miss Boxing Baby. They all have YouTube channels. Check them out. We'll see you guys next week. It's the nation, baby.